Final Fantasy is here, chat. But rather be like everyone else and go all the new cards revealed, I want to do something a little different. I'm going to focus instead on some old cards that might get a new lease on life with the new set coming out. A lot of these cards are cards I expect veteran players will be sniping to really juice up some of their new Final Fantasy decks. So if I were you, and if there's a card in here that you like the look of, I would be getting in quick. To help us decide what cards are ones to watch, Wizards released a new preview article detailing all the archetypes and themes of the set, which will definitely help. But I wanted to start with one of the juiciest cards I reckon is worth picking up, and it's to do with transforming. We know that that's a big theme of the set. We've seen the double-faced Sephiroth, Kefka, Terra. There's a bunch of new cards that are going to be double-faced and can transform into something on the other side. But you know what they all have in common? That's right, they're all humans. Moon Mist is a 2-mana instant in green, originally designed for werewolves that transforms humans into their other sides. So I think the intent behind this one was that, like, you have an army of humans that can turn into werewolves, you cast the spell, you flip them all over at once and get a big attack. But it also works really well with all these new double-faced humans that come into the game. With Moon Mist, you don't have to pay 5 mana for cards like Jill. You can do it instead at instant speed for 2. Many of the transform cards in this set that we've seen are all gated behind really high costs, such as Kefka, or really elaborate transformation requirements. You can skip that and simply cast 2 mana to immediately flip them. I think the big standout here is fittingly Sephiroth. You can flip him over immediately and get his emblem, which I reckon will be amazing. So I can totally see players wanting a Golgari green-black kind of list involving these two cards. But I reckon there's plenty of other uses for it too. If you are going to run that Gruul Terra commander, 100% look to run this card in. I did some other looking to see if there were other ways to be able to transform these kinds of cards. Moon Mist is the only way. Having said that, there are plenty of other cards that care about transforming that could see some prominence. Starting with Invasion of Hyrulean. This was a battle for March of Machines that scries 3 and draws you a card if the card is a double-face card. In case you forgot what battles do, these are permanents you can attack like a planeswalker, and when you destroy them, you get a little benefit. This thing flips over into a creature that gives your other transformed permanents Ward 2 and Trample. Both of these keywords are fantastic, especially in Commander. The Ward 2 might seem insignificant, but just adding 2 mana to any spot removal is usually enough to dissuade most players. Also, Trample is increasingly becoming one of the best keywords, given how many 1/1 fish, squirrels, and various other tokens are used to just trump block for days. Additionally, from the same set, we also got Mutagen Connoisseur and Oculus Whelp. These cards definitely aren't as exciting as the others, but if you are on a budget or using them to fill in for something else in a transform-themed deck, I do think they could really work well. If you do really want to double dip into this archetype, definitely take a look at the gods from Ixalan. So the 5 mythic gods, they all flip into a land, and also the Praetors. These are probably the pinnacle of cards that can transform. When they get into their saga mode and get to the 3rd stage, more or less they win you the game. Another heavy theme in this set is, unsurprisingly, legendary creatures. This was the case in Lord of the Rings too. There's going to be a bunch of new legendary characters coming into the game. So you can expect cards like Plaza of Heroes, which can tap for possibly any color, and that can be sacrificed to protect your legendary creatures to be really sought after. The Joins Up cycle from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which came out relatively recently, all care about legendary creatures, giving you an extra ability that activates whenever you play a legendary. Some of these range from Annie Joins Up, being able to double any triggers, which is universally helpful. I also want to shout out Vraska Joins Up, being an easy way to draw cards, and also giving things Death Touch, which is pretty nifty. Tiny Bones also adds a little bit of extra pinging damage, which can really matter. And Kellen Joins Up, also being in the same color as the Bant Recon, will probably get a lot of love. It can put 1/1 counters on each of your creatures, and I do think that will be pretty good as a cheap pickup for that precon. For other upgrades, you can literally look up Joda the Unifier or SpongeBob for plenty of other legendary matters upgrades. Relic of Legends being another standout. Delighted Halfling being able to make your legendary creatures uncounterable. Perfect addition to any cloud deck. And Primeval's Glorious Rebirth is a really fantastic finisher for a deck that's chock full of not only legendary creatures, but legendary permanents. One of the cool things about this card is its ability to also target legendary enchantments, artifacts, etc. A good rule of thumb is if the card could work in SpongeBob, it's probably one to look out for Final Fantasy. Ooh, one other theme I've seen not really mentioned, but is surprisingly pretty relevant, is historic permanents. Sagas, artifacts, and legendaries are all appearing in this set. Equipment being one of the main themes, and we get summons, which are basically sagas, making them historic. There are an abundance of cards that already exist in Magic for playing historic spells. Jihora, Weatherlight Captain comes to mind as a really powerful possible summon commander. There's a lot of summons in red and blue that are popping up, so she could be the perfect addition for a deck like that. Equally, Basim from Assassin's Creed is a Dimir version of that. Can only trigger once a turn, but I think that's more than enough for half the mana cost. I definitely think he will be one of the leading summon commanders, also letting you get some of the juicy ones in black. Probably one of the biggest standout creatures as well is Alistair the Brigadier, a 20-cent card actually, who also has the ability to make you an army simply for playing legendary permanents, and is also a win condition in himself. I think another fantastic upgrade for the Bant Precon for anyone looking to pick that one up. It doesn't just stop there. Desynchronization is a card I've been really huge on for the past couple months. It's a 4-mana Cyclonic Rift in a lot of these kinds of decks. This is currently going for $4, which if the price of Raise the Palisade is anything to go by, it probably won't stay that way forever. If you're looking for more budgety pickup, What Must Be Done is another Assassin's Creed themed card that can be a sweeper in a pinch, and also a resurrect spell if you don't need the sweeper. For a more splashy pickup, Excalibur is an increasingly popular card that I reckon you can expect to see spike over the next couple weeks and months with Cloud, probably one of his best equipment that he can wield. For that exact same reason, Spear of Leonidas and Embercleave may also be in pretty high demand, being great alternatives to equip, given the fact that Double Strike is probably one of the best keywords on Cloud. Now I want to dedicate a section to one of the more wacky cards of the set, and that is Sid, Timeless Artificer. Sid is the Nazgul of the set. For those who don't know, Nazgul was a uncommon from Lord of the Rings where you could have 9 copies of it in the deck. 2 years later, that card is still going for over $12. I expect Sid will follow a similar pattern, though Sid, you can have as many copies in the deck, so you can have all the incantations from him from across all the various series, and then some. Players looking to make a Sid deck, I expect, will be looking to break the legend rule, allowing you to effectively have as many copies of him on the battlefield as possible, given the fact that cards like Thrumming Stone often pop up in these kind of have as many copies of a card you want deck. Mirror Box and Sakashima of 1,000 Faces will probably be the 2 standout cards that a Sid deck player will want. I could also see Maskwood Nexus and the newer Leyline of Transformation popping up, being ways to turn Sid into a hero so that he can buff himself. There also may be other cards that may turn him into an artifact as well that I could see popping up. Lastly, I wanted to go over a new type of land we had revealed. This is towns. So we recently had caves, we've had spheres and deserts, now we have towns. And owners of the Tricky Terrain Precon will know that this is a bigger deal than it might seem. Planar Nexus and Omo Queen of Vesuva now can make towns, given the fact that the lands that they make or are cover all land types. Town enjoyers may also be interested in Wonderscape Sage and March from Velia Vel as 2 payoff cards for towns that already exist. As time goes on and people get more time to play with Final Fantasy, I expect we'll see these and more start to pop up in people's decks. Once the deck lists for precons drop, players usually scramble to fill in the blanks for cards not included in them that they want, and if I were you, I would be placing some of these on top of your list. What cards are you looking forward to brewing? Let me know in the comments, as well as any cards or ideas you would like me to investigate. That's it for this vid. See you in the next one. Cheers.